Hello? Hello? Yeah. So, thank you very much and welcome everybody. No, it's a pleasure. It's a pleasure to be here today and have the opportunity to present this exciting business network, the Ibero-American Business Network for Green Growth, and having the opportunity as well to have a discussion with representatives of the founding members. So I would like to welcome our esteemed panelists, starting with Teresa Ruiz-Tagle, the Executive Director of Corporate Leaders Group for Climate Action, CLG Chile. Welcome, Tere. Gonzalo Sáenz de Miera, which is the President of the Spanish Green Growth Group. And we have Beverly Cornaby, who is the Director of Policy and Systems Change Collaboration of Cambridge Institute for Sustainable Leadership. So welcome, everybody. Thank you very much for being here. I'm just going to jump into a panel discussion. You're going to, sorry, I was going to go through my seat. So Gonzalo will start giving a brief introduction of the initiative. So please, Gonzalo, come to the floor. Sí. So also, Ms. Balvanera, the Director of the Spanish Office of Climate Change, was supposed to do the opening remarks, but due to agenda issues, she will join us at the end and do the closing remarks. Thanks. Gonzalo?
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, Carmen, and good morning to everyone. Today is a very special and happy day for all of us, from CSL, for the Corporate Leaders Group Chile, and for the Spanish Green Growth Group, because we are launching the Ibero-American Business Network for Green Growth. What is our vision? Our vision is a sustainable and low-carbon economic and social model for Latin America that protects natural resources, that drives economic growth, and enhance societal well-being. What is the mission of this network? We want to be a platform of mainly business alliances, groups, and initiatives, but open to others, that seek to promote the acceleration of climate action and as an economic, not just climate action, but also the green economy as an economic opportunity for the region. What are the objectives of this network? 4. The first one is to mobilize private sector in the region, to give signals to society and especially to governments, to national government, to regional governments and local governments, to accelerate this climate action and to attract investments. The second is to propose public policies and green growth initiatives through collaboration between firms and governments to accelerate investment in the green economy. The third one is to raise public awareness on the benefits of this transition for society, but in particular for Latin America. And the last objective, and it's really important, is to develop collaboration frameworks with other organizations in the region with similar objectives. We have defined 4 priority areas to work next year. One is renewable networks and infrastructures and electrification. Second is carbon markets and the link with Article 6. The third is sustainable resource management. That is a very important, very strategic issue in Latin America. And the fourth is land use and agriculture. What are going to be the main activities of this network? Hi, Lara. Welcome. We want to organize working sessions and conversations between the members of the group of the network and others to share our views on these 4 topics. We want to organize events to present what we are doing and to do these things with others. We want to develop relationships with other action groups in the region. We are really an open network. And finally, we want to influence the agenda of the region related to climate growth and to climate activities and climate growth. What is our organizations? How are we organized? This network is open to business groups, to universities, to think tanks, to public agents, and other stakeholders in the region committed to green growth. So we are having already conversations with groups like CEBEPS in Brazil. We are having conversations with Perú Sostenible, with CECODES in Colombia, with ASAGUA in Guatemala. We are already having conversations with Women Business, with CAP, with Global Compact, with Race to Zero, with World Business Council for Sustainable Development, with the CEGIP. And finally, what are going to be our activities? This is just a proposal for this year. We want to organize sectoral dialogues on these 4 areas. We want to widen the network. We want to have conversations with other players in Latin America. We want to think about possible campaigns on our own or with others to accelerate climate action. And finally, and this is the most important, we want to develop links and collaboration with other organizations in the region, because our idea is to collaborate and to work with others, joining forces with others to accelerate climate action in the region. So we are really happy. We are really excited about this network. But this has been a really challenging work. So I want to thank everyone that has been collaborating in this project for the last 2 years, in particularly from the CLC, from the CLL, Catherine King, that is not here, IFA, Beverly, Laura, from the Corporate Group Chile, Tere, of course, from the Spanish Green Growth Group, Carmen, Mariluz, Miguel, everyone, Cristina, from the support we had from the Spanish government. We really appreciate it. We are really appreciated the support we are having from CAF, and in particularly Cristina Montalvo. We are really appreciating the collaboration of women business, in particularly Maria Mendiluce, that is always supporting these ideas. So this is about working together, not only in English, but we would like to have these dialogues also in Spanish, of course, to be really inclusive in the region. So working together and building trust, because no one is stronger than all of us together. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Gonzalo, for explaining the initiative briefly. And I think we will move now to the discussion, as said before previously, with the representatives of these 3 organizations. So I would like to start with a question for all of you, to see if you can tell us a little bit more about each of your organizations. What are the experience learned out from this business network, please? So whatever order you want to follow, yeah.
Thank you, Carmen, and I have to say I'm really excited and delighted to be part of this panel today and to be supporting the launch of this new group, because I think from CISL's perspective we see collaboration as key. Bringing businesses, business groups together, not just on a national level but on a regional level, is really important if we're going to meet our goals. So at the Cambridge Institute for Sustainability Leadership, we support, we develop leadership towards a sustainable economy that delivers for people, climate and nature. For over 20 years, we have had the corporate leaders groups, which are the UK and the European one. CLG Chile runs independently. But through that, we bring together businesses ourselves that from across sector, and we take their voice to government in respect to UK Corporate Leaders Group, that's to the UK government, and then in respect to the European Corporate Leaders Group, that is to the EU Commission. And what we're trying to do there is really create a virtuous loop, a kind of increasingly ambitious loop of business ambition being able to be demonstrated to government, and then in turn, government are able to set more ambitious policies, and then in turn that enables more businesses to actually come on board and to actually increase their own ambition. And the idea is to make it so it's a circle that goes around so that we actually ratchet up ambition. And we see that as an important way to operate. We collaborate with government in terms of what we do, and we also collaborate across business groups. So as well as our own UK Corporate Leaders Group, in the UK we bring together the UK Business Group Alliance for Net Zero, which means we work with other various different trade bodies and the main business groups to actually enable them to also see how they can support policy in terms of reaching net zero goals. And likewise, in Europe, we also have a European Business Networks group as well that does similar. We see these networks as really key to actually delivering change and to actually enable cooperation and collaboration to deliver against what are actually quite ambitious goals, but also to speed up and accelerate what is needed in terms of delivering against those goals. And this is where we really need implementation, and so being able to work together hopefully will mean that implementation can happen faster, because we can overcome some of the barriers that may exist through policy or other areas and actually take the opportunities and provide those to the businesses that are engaged.
Thank you very much, Beverly. Gonzalo, can you give us, Tere, sorry. Yep.
Well, thank you. You may hear something that is quite similar to what Bev had mentioned, because we are CLG Chile, the Corporate Leaders Group for Climate Action from Chile. We are 22 leading firms that are very ambitious in terms of climate action in different economic sectors: energy, mining, finance, transport, health, logistic, etc. Different groups, both national Chilean firms, but also international and multinational. And all of them trying to work together, trying to be more ambitious, trying to collaborate with the government in the doing and implementation of climate policy. Recently, for instance, we've been working hand to hand in the implementation of the offset system, trying it with CLG firms, trying to learn from each other for the instrument to improve in the longer term. Our ambition is to be a carbon neutral economy, resilient, and for us resilience means a lot because we are a very vulnerable country. And we want to lead, we want to be the leaders, okay? And that's why the firms have an important role in terms of showing the way to the other firms in the sector and trying to work together, collaborate with each other, because in the end we need to interact in between the different sectors, and we need to work with the supply chain. And at least for Chile, one of the main problems of big firms at the moment is Scope 3. Okay, so the collaboration in between them to try to talk with the supply chain is crucial. And so we believe that what is happening in Chile is also the case in other countries in the regions. Therefore, we want to share knowledge, experience, and trying to showcases, be able to move on and be able to take advantage, because there are business opportunities which are a win-win situation for the planet, for the people, and for businesses. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Teresa. Gonzalo?
Okay. So regarding the Spanish Green Growth Group, this is a group that was created 14 years ago. Okay? We are 60 firms from all sectors, so the energy sector, construction, food and beverage, financial services, for all sizes, like big firms like Acciona, Iberdrola, Telefónica, but also small and medium firms. We have Bodegas Torres, we have Ecoalf, and we defend that green is a tool for growth and prosperity. And we are seeing a technological revolution of the green solutions. And today, they are extremely competitive. And for this reason, green economy or green growth is not just good for the environment. We are talking about climate, but also biodiversity. That is going to be an important topic. Water, air quality, but it's also good for the economy. Why? Because this is about job creation. This is about energy dependency. This is about competitiveness. This is about leading the industry of the future. And we want governments to accelerate for climate, but also for economic opportunities. And as Tere was saying, there is a kind of global competition, and we want to take advantage of these opportunities. Others, but we want to collaborate with others. Just to tell you, we have like several values that are important for us. First is anticipation. We want to be before to take advantage of the opportunities. Transparency. We want to be transparent about what we are doing. Example. We want to be an example. Example of firms that are moving into this direction and showing at COP that there are opportunities, huge opportunities out there. The fourth one is collaboration. I will say that this is the basic pillar of our organization. Let me welcome Valentín Alfaya, that was the former president of the Spanish group, and he created the Spanish group. And we want to collaborate in two things. Policies, because policies is what really changes the behavior of firms. And policies is what really foster investment. And alliances. Yesterday, for instance, we met Rocío from Fundación Betis, the Betis Foundation, from a football team very well known in Spain and all around the globe. And we think we can collaborate together because football nowadays is so important in society. And it's such a good tool to spread this message about opportunities. So we want policies, but we want to build alliance. We want to build alliances in Spain, we want to build an alliance in Europe, and now we want to have this network to build new alliances with agents all around Latin America that want to move in this direction. Thank you.
Thank you very much, all of you, for giving us a hint of the organizations you represent today. I would like to move now into specific topics of key interest for the business network. And I will start with carbon markets and Article 6, which is a key focus area for the network. And Tere, in this sense, I would like to know from your perspective, what are the key challenges for countries in Latin America in establishing robust carbon trading frameworks, and how can business advocacy help to overcome these challenges? Please. Thanks.
Thank you very much for the question, because I think Article 6 is a great opportunity for Latin America. Mm-hmm. And ashamed to say that perhaps not all the countries have seen that opportunity. So one of the first barriers is to make it be seen by everybody in the region. With respect to Article 6, obviously, hopefully many things will happen during this COP, but we don't need to wait for that, to be honest. Okay, we have 6.4, yes, and we have 6.2. And 6.2 is a bilateral relationship between two countries, and that therefore is something that we can start already. In fact, Chile has started already, for instance, okay? So it's a country-to-country relationship where you have to agree and define the rules, and Chile, for instance, have taken a long time to think about, to define the rules, and we appreciate that. So I think that's the first barrier, no? That the government, the regulator need to define the rule. Second, and very importantly, is the public sector needs to define the areas in which they will allow Article 6.2 to work, okay? Because obviously every country has their own NDCs, so they need sectors, you know, to comply with the NDCs, and they want to use the most cost-effective and efficient solutions for that. But there are other sectors where they may not have the capabilities, they may not have the money, they may not have the technologies, while other countries do have all of those elements, okay? So they can define and say, well, these are the areas where we don't feel like we can use them, but to the other countries, let's go and run it. So far in Chile, we have agreement for the Article 6.2 with Switzerland, with Japan, and we are about to sign one with Singapore. But just this morning, in an event that I couldn't be, but they were sending me messages, the Chilean government also said that they will open the Article 6.2 even to other sectors that are going to be useful for the NDC, and they will share the reduction, okay? So in the end, you understand this, you need to be creative, you need to have willingness. So that's a barrier, yeah, the willingness of the regulator. But I don't want to leave all the burden into the regulator, because the private sector has to be active. In the end, the one that will develop the projects will be the private sector, okay? So the private sector needs to look for opportunities, need to interact with these other countries, and help, you know, in this transfer in terms of technology, in terms of abilities that will allow this. This is definitely going to be a market opportunity for Chile. We have a carbon market in Chile, but the price of carbon is $5 per ton. So obviously the 6.2 is very powerful for us, because it will open the market towards other prices, you know, like, I don't know, depending on the country. Singapore, they are talking about $35, you know, other countries $60, etc. So that's very powerful. I will leave it there. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Tere, for that reflection. So, Beverly, you have experience working in international business networks such as Corporate Leaders Group UK, which has been around since 2005. And based on that experience, how do you see that private companies can contribute to achieving ambitious climate targets in Latin America? And what incentives do they need to do so? Thanks.
I think there are steps that both the companies themselves, but also steps that that governments can actually take to support them as well. And so in terms of companies, the steps they can take, they can commit to actually buying renewable energy procurement. And that is one of the things that can enable increased demand, which in turn should enable, should incentivize to actually increase supply. At the same time, though, there are some things that may need to be unlocked by policy. And this is something we've been looking at as part of, as Gonzalo mentioned, our corporate leaders network. So that's actually bringing our own corporate leaders groups together with others, such as CLG Chile, and looking at, we have a more renewables campaign. So this is in the context of last year at COP, the tripling renewables and the doubling energy efficiency target. And one of the things that could enable more renewable energy procurement is thinking about governments, how can they actually incentivize that? How can they do things like regional energy auctions? And those are things that certainly, you know, mechanisms that they can use to actually incentivize corporates to actually take up more renewables. The other thing could be tax breaks and financial incentives, so looking at actually renewable energy investment. So this is actually how do you increase the amount of infrastructure in terms of renewables being rolled out in the country, and actually how you kind of, you know, make sure that it's in terms of the investment, that you can unlock the investment for that. Other areas include public-private partnerships. Sorry, I always trip over that one.
Yeah. Imagine us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which is where actually you can support companies in building renewable projects. And I think that's going to be quite important going through. Certainly we know that there's going to be announcements today around a global clean power alliance, which should actually enable some finance to come through to countries that really need it, to actually enable them to invest and actually increase the number of renewable projects that are being built. And that's going to be important because we do need to accelerate how many are actually going in. Mm-hmm. At the same time, though, it's up to the countries to look at actually how they can, where they can put those, but also businesses to, you know, as I mentioned first, to send that signal that they're going to use it. And this is where we talk, you know, I want to come back to that ambition loop, because while government can take those steps, businesses need to also signal that they're going to actually use that, you know, they're going to want those tariffs, they're going to want to actually commit to actually to renewable energy procurement. Another area, I mean, I know that Terry has mentioned around the carbon markets, but that is one where things around environmental, social and government, so ESG legislation, that can be another area that governments can support. And the way that businesses can come into that is also calling for some of these regulations, calling for some of these policies. And if there is a consistent voice from business going to government, then hopefully that will actually put pressure on the governments to actually enact those, because they know that businesses are supporting them.
Oh, very good. Thank you. Thank you very much. We'll move on to another topic also of interest for the network, about electrification. So Gonzalo, what is your vision about that topic and the main barriers to accelerate the process, please?
Before moving into the electrification, I want to say something.
Okay.
What I'm seeing here at the COP is that behind climate policies, we see industrial policies. Because this energy transition is creating an industrial revolution with huge opportunities. Okay? But Europe saw that 5 years ago with the Green Deal, but now everyone or other regions are doing the same. So the US have the IRA, that is the biggest support scheme to attract investment in the green industry. China is doing the same. And Europe, we are trying to attract investment. However, as the Draghi report shows, Europe is losing competitiveness. But what the Draghi report says is that to get this competitiveness, you need to invest in green. But investing in green in a sustainable and competitive way. So, what we are seeing is that Europe, talking about electrification, Europe, Beverly says that we have to accelerate renewables. It's true, but renewables are going quite well because we are investing a lot in renewables, especially in photovoltaic. That is one out of the 3 technologies that is moving at the necessary speed to comply with the objective in 2030. Wind is not, it's doing well, but it needs to accelerate because wind development are much more complex. But in general, I will say that the renewable investment are going into the good direction. However, this is power sector, and the power sector represents only 22% of the energy consumption in Europe. So decarbonizing the power sector through renewables is not enough to comply with the climate objectives we have. What is the problem? That we are not decarbonizing the rest of the economy. We are talking about industries, transport, and buildings, mainly through electrification, because electrification is the way to decarbonize these sectors with renewables. This is for us the main problem. China is accelerating this electrification process, and they already have 35% of the economy depends on electricity. In Europe, it's only 22%. And here is the main challenge, to decarbonize all industries. The main challenge and the main opportunities, because we are talking about the decarbonizing transport sector, and here is electric vehicles, all these industries. We are talking about decarbonizing chemicals. We are talking about decarbonizing iron with green hydrogen, and we are not moving forward. So we need to accelerate renewable development, I fully agree, but we need to accelerate even more electrification. And the last point I want to mention, the main barrier. I think one of the things we are doing is to have a conversation with industries, to understand their challenges, because we are seeing industries that want to move in this direction, but they are experiencing difficulties. And what they are telling us is that the main barrier nowadays is the lack of network, of electricity network. Because to move in an industry from natural gas to renewables to electricity, you need to have network access. And networks are really difficult to build in Europe because of the social opposition or lack of. So it takes 10 years to build a new network. And you need to have this network before the renewables are there and before the industry wants to decarbonize. So I think we need to work on this electricity network development because it's one of the main factors to decarbonize the whole economy. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Gonzalo. It's a very challenging task, but we're working on it, all of us. So, okay, so next, Latin America is rich in resources required for climate action, but community co-design and ensuring benefits and burdens equally are key parts of ensuring a just transition. So, Tere, what steps can the region take to balance the extraction of critical minerals like lithium with the environmental protection and the rights of local communities?
Well, thank you very much for the question. And by the way, critical mineral is one of our topics. Yes, our main topics. And for Latin America, it's very important. In fact, Chile is the second supplier worldwide of lithium at the moment. Argentina, Bolivia, Peru, I mean, many other countries do have lithium as well, and they will scale it up, okay? So while, of course, lithium should be and will be part of the transition and is a very important element for the energy transition, there is a lot of feeling in terms of the communities, the local communities, that we pay the cost, but we help the world, yeah? Mm-hmm. And we need to change that, yeah? We need to change, and we need that not only the firms, the owners, you know, of the lithium, yeah, will gain, but the country, but the communities at the level of the territory. Absolutely. So in Chile, the situation with the lithium has called a lot of attention, and we have a national policy with respect to lithium, and we have developed a royalty, a mining royalty, yeah, which is not a tax, is a price over the resource that we are exploiting, yeah. So, and this goes to 3 funds in Chile. One is for productivity and development. The second fund is for vulnerable territories, so it's redistributive. And the third one is to compensate for the externalities, yeah, local externalities. And then I want to talk about it, because in theory, I mean, you may hear that and it sounds good, but if we do the double click on the third element, the compensation, when we talk about critical minerals, we shouldn't be talking about compensation. Mm-hmm. We should be talking about prevention first, mm-hmm. then mitigation, and only then compensation. Mm-hmm. Okay, so you see how even a policy that we thought a lot and it went through many things, you know, still has this sort of problem. So yes, there is money that is arriving to the local communities now, which is very good, okay? And that happens, you know, with the lithium in particular. We need to make it happen in other areas of the economy as well, mm-hmm. okay? But we have that issue that we need to be more careful. We need to be talking about the environmental standards. We need to improve, you know, the communication with the local communities participation, citizens' participation, because in the end, it's not only a social license that we need, okay, we need really to share value. And if we share value, and yesterday we were with the Andalusia presidency in Spain, and they were telling us, you know, how do they do it? And it's impressive, you know, how they work from the base of sharing value. Because if we don't share, they're not going to care. They're not going to help. They are going to oppose, as you were saying with the grids, they're going to oppose everything, okay? So obviously we do need, you know, lithium, but we need to extract it with the best possible technology available, okay? In Chile, we have an issue with water, as in many other countries in Latin America, okay? So we need to protect, you know, the water resources. We need to look for the best possible technology, the best possible abilities, you know, to deal with the situation in order to use the resource in a sustainable way, mm-hmm. yeah, sharing value with local communities. Therefore, we not only are contributing to the energy transition worldwide, but also we are developing a sector, an economic sector, in a sustainable way. That's what we want for Chile. It's a challenge. As I said, we developed a policy, and just after we realized that it's not the best thing, but it's a process of learning by doing. Obviously, the fact that the lithium price was very high at a certain point helped us a lot for these funds that I'm talking about. And that meant that a lot of money has been used, you know, for education, for productivity, for efficiency, for different elements, environment, of course. But I think we need to be more clear, you know, in terms of prevention, mitigation, and compensation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Tere. I would like to move now to Beverly. Like you already mentioned, a big campaign run by CISL's Corporate Leaders Network this year calling for robust laws for more renewables to support the tripling renewables pledge agreed on COP28. So on that scenery, like what kind of laws would most effectively accelerate renewable energy development in Latin America?
Thank you. So, I mean, there are a number of laws. I think the first thing to say is that to enable the development of and the implementation of renewables, then you need to look at what is already there and actually what challenges that presents. One of the key areas which comes up again and again, you know, whichever country, but in particularly in Latin America, is the grid. Okay. And actually at the moment you have an aging grid and that needs updating, but also, as we know ourselves in the UK and other countries, for the amount of renewables coming on board, we need to increase the grid in every country as well. And so therefore actually looking at how do you prioritize grid modernization is going to be quite key. And that is to enable also the connections to be made. And I think this also comes through to some of what Terry is saying in terms of probably some of the materials that are needed for that and enabling that to happen. There are other areas there as well in terms of things like renewable portfolio standards, feed-in tariffs, those can help. In terms of actually guaranteeing a fixed price for renewable energy. Certainly there are things that I've seen in other countries that have used similar tariffs and actually they've enabled the acceleration because they enable it to be, you know, they provide the incentive to actually kind of for investment in those renewable projects. And probably one of the areas where you look at some of those incentives has been things like in the US with the Inflation Reduction Act. We know that actually that really helped move forward in terms of actually the acceleration of the energy transition in the US. Other things such as permits and regulations, and this is where I kind of want to come back again on Terry's point to do with actually communities, but also bringing in nature as well. Because I think with the permits and regulations, you have to look at bringing communities with you. You have to look at the impacts of things and actually look at how do you deliver it for people in terms of the community so that they see the benefits of it, but also for nature, so in terms of how you deliver it. And certainly I know there are examples that Iberdrola would have in terms of actually how you bring that together and looking at how you, I mean, it's things like, you know, where do you put solar panels, what is beneath them, how do you use the land around it, where you've got wind turbines, how do you use the land around it, how do you actually enable in some ways biodiversity and actually support the development of biodiversity in those areas to make sure that it's actually having a positive impact and not seen as having a negative impact, which can be one of the challenges where you need to get community engagement, but understanding with the communities what would work there. I think the other thing that I'm just going to mention is around actually things like green bonds, tax incentives, those things that can also just help incentivize in terms of getting that investment in. But I think one of the most important things which all of this comes to is actually consistency in policy. So it's actually for countries to have a consistent approach to actually how they're doing this to provide certainty through not just being short-term policy changes, but by putting these in for the long term. So that then it actually really unlocks that investment. Companies know that they're going to be, you know, that they're going to have the government support for the long term, and that can actually de-risk some of those projects as well in terms of actually their implementation.
Okay, perfect. Thank you very much. We're going to now move to the audience in case someone has any question that would like to address to the panelists. Please feel free. I don't know if there's any questions. Okay. If there's no questions, we can continue with some other questions for our panelists. So I would like to ask each of you like a bit of a closing. What key messages should people in this room and other connections from Latin American region convey to global stakeholders about Latin Americans' role in climate action and sustainable growth? Gonzalo, you want to, or Tere? Okay.
Well, thank you. I think one of the main points of this group is to look towards COP30, okay, which is a Latin American COP. Therefore, obviously, all the topics will be important, but there are some Latin American topics that will be highlighted and are very important. Somehow, Latin America is very much part of the solution of this problem. Very much, okay? We have huge renewable energies. We have a lot of critical minerals. We have a lot of land that we can protect and forest and look after, okay? And the carbon market is an opportunity. So for Latin America, it's really an opportunity to show all the potential, okay? Which, as we said before, is not only good for the planet, but it's also good for the countries, for well-being, for the citizens, for nature, for communities, okay? We have the alternative to do it right, which is something different to other continents, that they didn't do it right from the beginning. As we develop, because we do need to develop, so we thought very much about how to call this network. And for us, growth is important. Okay, Latin America needs to grow. We need to have a sustainable development, okay? But we can do it right. We've learned the lessons. We know that we need to engage, you know, in between the different countries, hopefully working more together. But there are huge business opportunities, which are good opportunities, and this is the way to do it, okay? So I think it will be great to be working through this year towards that in order to be very clear on the messages that we want to pass in the areas that we can learn from each other, okay? I think in the carbon market there is a lot of learning opportunities, not only for the public sector, but also for the private sector in the different countries. The same in terms of critical minerals, the same in terms of land use, renewable energies, the grid. I mean, we share all the same situation, okay? But if we do it right, we can win a lot, okay? And win in all different concepts, community, nature, in terms of biodiversity, in terms of even local pollution. We can remember that for us in Chile, we call it all the time a triple environmental crisis: climate, biodiversity, and pollution, okay? And all these elements that we've been talking about can address the three crises that we are in. So we can be part of the solution and help to contribute towards this problem in our countries.
Thank you very much, Tere.
Yes, I would like to say that I like what you said about solution. So, like, Latin America can be a solution region.
Yes.
No? Put it in positive, because as you mentioned, it has like all the resources needed for this transition. I'm looking at Miguel Angel, no, that is also working in forestry, no, and biodiversity. So it's amazing. I would say that is the most competitive, region with the most biodiversity, with more forests in the world. So, as this network, I think what you mentioned is really important, that we have to do it right. But we have to do it right not because we need to be responsible businesses. It's because if we don't do it right, we are not going to see these opportunities. We are not going to move forward. Because apart from the administrative license, you need the social license. And I think we all agree about the importance of doing it right and to get the social license to take advantage of these opportunities, of these huge opportunities. Because other thing that maybe you didn't mention is green hydrogen. I mean, we are seeing that Europe is not going to be able to produce all hydrogen we need. And we will need to import hydrogen for other regions. And Latin America is one of these regions. So there are opportunities out there with Chile. There are opportunities in Brazil. I would say that there is kind of a bubble nowadays. But I think Latin America is one of the most competitive regions to provide this hydrogen for Europe. I see that Valvanera is there, so maybe I'm going to move to...
Yes. Okay. So, Beverly, if you want to...
I will just, I think we're going to go to the closing soon, but at the same time, I think one of the things I really want to pick up on is collaboration. So one of the things, I don't have the badge on this year, but I got a very similar one that says actually climate change knows no borders. Mm-hmm. And even though each country in Latin America will take its own approach, will have its own energy mix in terms of what it actually delivers, I think in terms of cooperating and collaborating, both between businesses that often will probably operate across borders, but also within the countries as well, to actually look at what are the opportunities to really collaborate to help bring the price down, to help enable that investment, and to look at it as well in terms of, you know, what may work well in one country and how you can learn from that to enable that to happen in another country as well. And this is where I think cooperation, and particularly the opportunity for COP30 next year, to kind of come forward quite strong and to look at, you know, taking this further than actually has been at the moment.
Okay. Thank you very much, all of you, and thanks for this insightful conversation. We spoke about many issues about private sector leadership, about renewable energies, carbon markets, critical minerals, electrification, etc. So there's many other topics to talk about, but yeah, I would like to thank you all for being here, and I will give the floor to Ms. Valvanera Ulargui, which is the Director General of the Spanish Office of Climate Change, that she will be in charge of giving us some closing remarks. Valvanera, yeah.
Thank you so much, and sorry for being late, but that's the role of the negotiators, you know, going from one room to another and try to find the best consensus that we can in this COP. Thank you for inviting us. Thank you for the leadership also of the Spanish Green Group and for this memorable day, because I think that building bridges between the two sides of the Atlantic is natural and is part of our DNA. But the implication that it will have in our relationship with governments and private sector is so important in complex times and in positive times also. So let me also highlight that we are in a phase of implementation. Implementation is the way of doing things, and it's the way of honor the 1.5 Celsius degree that we are committed to. Implementation without collaboration is not going to go so far, so it's crucial that we sit all together and we put our main efforts jointly on the table in order to advance in this energy transition that is crucial, that should be for the benefit of all, for the benefit of the companies, for the benefit of the citizens, for the benefit of the planet. There are plenty of good examples in both sides of the Atlantic. We know by heart, because we have the Latin American networks that we are celebrating the 20th birthday this year. So we have already have a long way of experience. So we are not starting from scratch. But it's true that the vision of the companies, the vision that the net zero, that the decarbonization of our economies and our society is within reach. It's so important also for the administration. It's an agenda that got plenty of opportunities, not only some opportunities, plenty of opportunities for the environment, plenty of opportunities for the society, plenty of opportunities for companies and for governments. In that sense, I think that we need to go beyond the general principles that we share all in this room, that we need to go beyond these barriers that sometimes are difficult and are very local specific, you know, like access to capital, access to technologies, how to promote, you know, that it's a just transition, the one that we are putting, you know, in front of our citizens. So trying to make this reality, you know, a good opportunity through good projects that we can exchange through good collaborations that could be fruitful at the end of the day, and with the whole of the society involved in the process. It's also part of the responsibility as different leaders that we have around these rooms, to go to our companies, to go to our local authorities, and also to go to our citizens, to make them part of the solutions and to empower also, you know, with the responsibility of helping us in this green transition that should be fair, that should be competitive, and that should be collaborative, as you have already launched today. So thank you very much. Congratulations, and count on the Spanish administration and on the Ministry of Ecological Transition to move this agenda forward and to have good reports and good tracking. So I hope next year we can come again and show, you know, all the projects and all the good collaborations that we could put on the table. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Magdalena. Thank you everyone for being here.